Hello everyone, SirMonkeySuit or Zabby here, back again with the start of episode 3 for Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. And just before we get into what happened last time and everything like that in the pre-discussion, I'm using this opportunity to change my setup a bit, because previously the way I would have to record, it would be like in a two-part sort of setup, so that, you know, essentially I would record my reaction and everything. The episode footage will be like down here, but I won't be recording the audio in that, like, in this file, you know. So that's basically just strictly for the full length, so that it means that I can just put this, like, this file in, like, you know, the full length thing, and then get it off onto YouTube, and it won't be picked up for copyright because of the audio. And then what I would have to do, like, you know, for like the 10-minute cut version of like the reaction stuff, is I would have to have the episode file itself, like, so like the episode footage, right? Which means that after reacting to the episode, I would have to like just play back through the episode again and have my OBS recording just the episode, so that it would be, you know, it would have the actual audio from the episode and everything in it, and then I would just overlay it on top of my reaction in the editing software. Now, because of that, it means that it's so, like, it's not efficient at all. It means that obviously, you know, I have to wait for the show to be recorded, so that I can get on with editing, you know. So it's not very efficient. So what I'm doing now and testing out for this episode and next episode of Ghost in the Shell is I've got a separate program called Audacity, which is basically just recording my voice, so that I can basically do it in a more efficient manner. It means that the separate file is actually just the audio that's just being picked up. So this video file, this one right here, will contain both the episode audio, and that's it. So that means that when I go to put it on full length or whatever, it won't be a problem, because I can literally just get rid of the audio completely in the editing software and just plop in my my audio from the mic. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so with that out of the way, it's all fucking convoluted anyway, but you know what it is, it'll be fine. It should be fine. But if it sounds a little bit different, it may be like a high quality, anything like that, that's just the reason why. So in the last episode, someone did point out to me that the way that standalone complex actually works is that standalone and complex is actually part of like the viewing sort of experience, the way that the story is sort of set up. So the idea that there are standalone episodes, which was episode 2, I believe, the last one we watched, which is great for like world building and everything like that. And then we've got the complex one, which delves into the overarching story. So that was one of my questions from the last 2 episodes, was how, you know, like how the story is like going to develop, and, you know, is there going to be a long overarching story, or is it just going to be strictly standalone episodes, mini arcs within? So it feels like, I think it tells me what kind of episode it's going to be in that like little like screen that where the title of the episode comes up, and because I believe it says standalone or it says complex in either or. So yeah, we'll have a look to see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, basically the major plot points, I mean, we've got Motoko Kusanagi, main character of the show. She's with Section 9. We've got a bunch of you know, introduced to a bunch of people from Section 9, and it's sort of this like secret sort of it's like this you see, because this is the thing with Section 9, is that I still don't know what kind of organization it is and who it's really in cahoots with. I don't know if it is a side section of, like, you know, law and justice and everything like that, and, you know, because they're not known to some people. Like, some people are like, oh, I didn't even know they existed, you know. So they've got this like operation going on that like they bring Section 9 in for cases where you know, like it's like they can go undercover in a way and get stuff done covertly, as opposed to, you know, sending in the police, for example. You know, and then, yeah, I mean, so that was basically the whole thing with episode 1, the Ichinose report. I think I theorized back in episode 1 that there may be some kind of thing with you know, the technology companies and having access to certain things, and that'll be the sort of the overarching thing, like something to do with that. You know, I mean, we know politics is going to get involved and everything like that in between all this kind of stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see what we uncover in this episode, if it is one of the complex ones. I feel like it's like a one-on, one-off kind of thing. So complex every other episode, and then standalone every other episode, you know. So yeah, we'll see. But I don't think there's anything else to really talk about. We're just going to get in episode 3 and see what we get. So yeah, if you do want to go watch the actual reaction, link is in the description to the 10-minute version. There'll also be a link to the full length. If you do want to watch that, then the offer is there for you. But yeah, nothing else to really talk about. So we're going to get in episode 3 and see what we get. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, episode 3. Interesting. So, right, I mean, well, first of all, I was sort of expecting the fact that because it was... I mean, I don't know which one's which now, because I thought episode 2 was the definition of, like, what a standalone episode was. Though I guess this one does technically work in that sense as well, because at the end they did say that in the end it had no connection. So I guess in that regard it did end up being a standalone one. Because yeah, I was thinking like surely the complex part of it would be the overarching story, and the standalones would be the ones that are just, you know, little stories significant to that episode, you know. But this was an interesting one. Like, I like the way that it turned out in the end. That because of course, like, connecting all the dots to, like, you know, back in you know, in his apartment there was, like, you know, just all of these film reels like stacked up and everything, and that he was a movie nut in that regard, and that he was so, I guess, like that was just his whole thing, and he just got like sort of enveloped in the whole thing, and you know, depending on, well, I'm guessing clearly he was good with technology. Like, he, from what I can gather, he tried to get all of the other Jerrys, obviously, to, you know, to mass termination, right? So that this one would be the only one left, because he wanted to live out his own film fantasy. Because it was a case of, like, I think he, however he did it, with the technology of the future, or technically 10 years in the future, since this takes place in 2030, but he downloaded that film, and you know, the woman who was in, like, actually in the film, that was downloaded into the android, and he, being just a human, because he was saying the same lines as well, you know. But at the end, we had, what's his name? Togusa, that's his name. Like, you know, basically figure out that there wasn't anything more after the, like, at the end, even though the android in real life obviously said, you know, that, you know, I did actually love you, right? So I think what the whole thing was there was that everything previous to that, the android was set up to say everything from the film. Afterwards, that's what really, like, the android was actually saying, like, that actually came from her as herself, kind of thing, you know. And yeah, I mean, I love the fact as well that Bato at the end, when he was in the bar talking to Kusanagi, and he was like, but it's just an android, like, it, you know, it doesn't have like a soul, so how could it possibly even understand that, you know? Because Bato's the one that, like, because he's so into his machines and everything like that I feel like that's almost a dream of his, is that you, like, that, like, he would love for that to be the case, almost, you know. Or maybe it's a sort of, like, maybe you can look at it another way, in the fact that maybe he loves them because they don't, and therefore he has that sort of, like, that sort of affection towards them, because that, like, maybe that's why he loves them. Because there could be a thing in his backstory where, I don't know, like, he loved once, but then she betrayed him or something, and now he's like, now he's like, oh, I don't need anyone else. I've just got my machines, kind of thing. So it could be that, as well. But there was also a thing of like, Marshall, when he was in the car with the android, and the android says, "Do you believe in a soul?" And he just says, I only believe in love," kind of thing. And it was like, well, it was like two different sort of things and not one connected to the other. So when Bato was talking, like, when they were referring to what the android said afterwards, and says, like, when the android said, "I did actually love you," the first thing that Bato says is like, "But they don't have a soul," as if to say that soul and love, like, you have to have a soul in order to have love, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, just interesting little self-contained stories, man. Like, I love the fact that it did actually tease the possible connection to the first episode, in that it could have had some bigger connotations, but it didn't in the end. I mean, I was thinking, like, it wasn't just the case of the fact that obviously the first thing that was brought up was that there was androids at the I didn't even write down the National Assembly thing, right? There was androids there that was involved in that whole debacle that were made from Genesis Andros, which is the facility, or the the production company that makes these kind of things. And I don't know if he was referring to the one that, like, had its head blown off, or I don't think it was that one, because that one's supposed to have Naiba, right? So, like, the North American side of it, or it could be the android, like the geisha robots, right? Could be those. Because it's like they didn't have anything. Like, even the android, like, was so cold faced, like there wasn't any real emotion given out there. But I think that's the point, because in this world there is cyborgs and everything like that, where they still retain their human, like their feelings, their emotions, everything like that is still captured, even though they're maybe like a pure cyborg, which I've been told that Kusanagi actually is. Like, she's pretty much like in 100%, all of her body is purely like cybernetic, but like who she is as a person is in that body. But I think that they are clearly distinguishing the fact of, like, I don't know if we'll ever get to a point in the show, and like, because that could be a story thread we go down in, like, another standalone episode where it's like it was an android all along, but we didn't know it acted so much like a human. I don't know if, like, that's because that would be like an enthralling story in my mind, like but it also seems like that's an easy thing to go for. But I feel like, because you need to, I guess you don't need to, but I think it helps, at least anyway in the first few episodes, whatever, that you distinguish the difference between what a cyborg is and an android. Right now, I mean, we all know what it is, what, like, the distinguishing features or whatever. But in this world, like, it could have been a case of like the cyborgs are just being cyborgs, where you still get all their emotion and everything like that. But if it was a show where the androids felt just as human, how would you tell the difference? And it could be a thing where you don't. But I feel like androids in themselves do have that sort of cold stare, where it's like like there's clearly like nothing going on, like there's no real soul there that you can see, you know what I mean? A lot, there's this whole thing about soul, that you can see it through the eyes and everything like that, and because of how cold faced the androids seem to be, it's like, well, yeah, they don't have a soul. But that doesn't mean that there's an inherent sort of learning value there, where an android, because we know that they are considered old and clunky. We had some characters basically point that out, but over the course of time, like, an android would have that sort of learning technology, right? Like where it's born and the AI within it would, over the course of time, learn stuff and try to understand things. So, and when you've got Marshall basically, uploading this kind of data to her with like romantic films and stuff like that, that maybe that android did actually get a sense for what, and like maybe understood in her own way what love actually meant, and therefore when when he basically saved his life, because it would have ended badly kind of thing, that she actually had her own understanding of what love is, and therefore she felt like she actually did love him in that regard. So it's all very interesting. But yeah, I mean, back to the connection that it could have been, like, it wasn't just the fact that they were made by Genesis Andros, but the fact that Marshall was an ambassador's son, and also from the fact that that ambassador was like North American, which isn't the I think the biggest connection there, which is that the whole Naipa situation, and that could have been the case. Whoever this Herbert McLaughlin guy is, I don't know. I mean, seeing as it said that it's like standalone, it's self-contained, I don't think we'll be hearing Herbert McLaughlin again. But you never know. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I've got, except for, yeah, I mean, Kusanagi being a cyborg from a kid is interesting. I don't know why, because we haven't had any backstory on who she is. So, I mean, I'm sure we'll get it. I don't know if we'll get it in this show, or like, I mean, I need to like watch some other Ghost in the Shell to actually get that information. But I mean, she said that from being a kid, when she couldn't really, she wasn't really used to using the cybernetics and everything in her arms, that she broke her favorite toy. Which, yeah, that does happen in the opening, doesn't it? So that's referring to back then. But the fact is that because she was a cyborg from being a kid, like, that's an interesting sort of topic. I wonder, because how, because it's prosthetics, and I'm not sure if this show goes into the whole, I'm almost tempted to say that they don't have technology that allows for cybernetics or prosthetics to grow alongside. You know what I mean? So I guess it's just a case of like, when she grew, she was just put into another body, or like given new parts over time, because I guess theoretically you could just upload a mind to a child, but mentally she wouldn't be a child. I suppose it helps that, like, it's cool in the long run, because you could have theoretically, like, I mean, I've talked about this before about like the idea of like possible immortality, because it's just your conscious being uploaded to the system or whatever, and that doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just go away. It's the reason why we die is because our bodies are, it can be kind of seen as like a mortal cage. But I mean, she could be, I don't even know, like, she could be well old, and maybe that's the whole thing, because I was talking to someone the other day about what Ghost in the Shell actually is, and I thought that, after, like, before episode 1, I had this thing that, like, I knew that Ghost in the Shell was like a big deal, and that the universe, it was like a universe type of like show, where I thought that, like, we're following this person now in this, section 9 in this show, but in another one, in the older Ghost in the Shell, like, it would follow someone else. But someone said that it's actually, we always follow Motoko Kusanagi. But if you can just upload her, just upload her, like, or just keep her in that body for forever, like, it could be a case of, 100 years later, we're still following her, you know what I mean? But the but like humanity has moved on a bit, and like maybe have like all of these like new technologies that she gets to face and everything like that. So in a way, it's definitely like interesting in that regard, because I mean she can have way more experience and wisdom because she's been alive longer and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, being made a cyborg as a kid, I don't know if she was an orphan and therefore like she was put into like some kind of fucking super soldier program, like I don't know if that's what it was, because there would definitely be like, if this was a thing that happened in our future, right, where you can upload yourself to a completely cybernetic body and that's just something you can do, there would definitely be, well, first of all, there would be like an outcry from some people. Like definitely religious people would have a problem with it. We had that kind of thing in episode 2 where they didn't want Cargo to have an artificial body, right? Because religion and everything like that would like get in the way of like, what does it mean to have a soul? Like, you're basically throwing away this body that was given to you by God and everything like that. Like, there would be a huge fucking uproar, like people being okay with it, people not being okay with it. And then there would also be other things that came up in the process where, like, I could almost you could almost see it being like taboo to give a kid a cybernetic body, or put a kid, you know what I mean, because they can't, like, you can make arguments for kids, especially like up until a certain age, where it's like they clearly, their brain hasn't fully developed yet. How can you take that choice away from the kid? You know what I mean? Kind of similar in a way to where like you have the whole like gender thing now, right? Where it's like you have parents who kind of like force their child like into a way to, like, because they don't want, like, because of this whole gender thing that's been like, gender appropriation, everything like that, that you have parents kind of forcing that on the child, and therefore it's like, well, you don't have any right to do that, you know what I mean? Even though it's your child, you don't have any right to just fucking try and force that upon a child. Let them figure it out for themselves when they get of age. So in a way, it's kind of like the same thing, and it's definitely interesting. So I love like stories like this where it's like sort of set in the future, but it's it's like a cyberpunk sort of metropolis kind of thing where everything's run down and it's all like sort of, I don't know. It's just it's interesting topic, especially like the whole cyborg thing. Yeah, I mean that's definitely an interesting topic, and how it would like affect society as well. So yeah, but yeah, really cool episode. So that's all I've got. So thank you everyone for watching. In the description below I have links to certain things. One of them is the Discord, so you can get yourself over there if you wish. And I also have a Patreon page as well, so if you do want to support me on Patreon, that'd be very much appreciated. There is a bunch of different tiers and rewards there, depending on how much you want to support me with. So there's the early access tier, $5 a month. That gives you access to shows a week early. There's full length there for $10. That'll give you access to all of the reactions that I do in full, and then there are other tiers where you can pay to have a show reacted to as well. So if you want me to react to a show, go have a look at those tiers and see what they offer. But that is all I've got. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.